I'm gonna put this at the beginning of the video. Sorry if the camera is shaking because I am not very used to holding a selfie stick, and also I'm nervous. I'm nervous as hell because this is the craziest video I'm about to record. Oh boy, this is quite a video. If you think you're crazy for clicking on this video, for seeing the title and the thumbnail, just know that I feel like 8 times as crazy recording this. But if you've been following my channel, and I only have like 4 videos, you know that I am working on turning my life around in my 30s, and a big part of that is my weight. Obviously, you can tell I'm not the most skinny person, or the most fit person, I should say. However, this story is told in chunks. So let's start at the very beginning, right? I recently lost my job, so I've been at home for quite a while, a few months, and in that time I started to play Palworld. Well, I've played Palworld before, let's just make that clear. I've played Palworld before, but this time I went like really hard. I went all in on Palworld because I just had so much time to do stuff, just had a bunch of free time, so I just went ham on Palworld. I'll even put up a screenshot. There's a thing I saved. It's a little screenshot of Discord, and I'll put it up on the screen here. But I had I think my craziest session was like a 15-hour session on Palworld. I was grinding. It was crazy. But there was one particular day on Palworld that really just set everything and even this YouTube channel in motion, which is crazy. But it started because I built up my base in Palworld. I had everything kind of like running a little bit like automated, so it was looking pretty good. But what I was doing was I was trying to, so if you have no context, in Palworld it's kind of like Pokemon. You can take 2 pals and you can, put them together and they make another pal, and you can kind of like make really strong pals that way through, it's called the breeding system, through the breeding system. And one day I decided I'm gonna try to do this, but I need to plan this out. I need to really I need to write this down, and that's the most important part, right? Writing it down. So hold on, I have to change the perspective a little bit. All right, here we are at the sink and the mirror. But this sorry, don't mind the mess. I got a lot going on over here. I'm reorganizing, but this right here was the notes that I took down. Don't mind that drawing. That's like Deadpool with like a weird costume. Don't ask why I drew it, but I did. This right here is what I was working on in PAL. So we have Yakumo with a bunch of skills. We have, Will Ask. Basically, I was trying to, and there's also some like just other notes in here, but basically, dude, this video probably sounds so nerdy, but you know what? It is what it is. I was trying to get materials for the late game, and I was like, I need to make these perfect pals so I can maximize my material gains and blah, 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 blah. So I wrote it down in my notebook. And I made sure to stick to that plan. Alright, no bullshit, I'm gonna take you guys into the room, and this will give you a little more insight on me as well, but, screw it. Okay, right here's the famous thing that I recorded my first video in front of, if you guys remember from video 1, but here we go. Bed made. It's not perfect, but it's made. Okay. I'm gonna switch to perspective again. Here we go. This is my Whaleaska. I named him Laboon. And then you can see the Yakuma there, the Neptilius, Boss Nep, and I have a Finsider Ignis named Deadpool. Now, I'll even go through the skills. Look, I was breeding for these skills. It's in the notebook. I was breeding for these skills, right? And I have it. Even Yakumo, look here. I'll switch to Yakumo. I hit escape, Yakumo. There's Yakumo, King of the Waves, Ace Swimmer, Swift, right? And I'll hit back again. I'll show you Neptilius. Here's Neptilius, Boss Nep, Big Neptilius, Lunker. See? No bullshit. You still with me? Because damn, this is hard to film. This is the most I've moved around in any of my videos. They're just going to be super real, but we're back in the room, back in the closet bathroom. This is my sink, but let me switch it again. Hold on. All right, I have my microphone on my jacket, so I can use my hands. But see, this is the Palworld notes, right? Palworld notes. And it was around this time that I was doing this that I started thinking more about my goals. This is around this time when I was doing this but this thing to improve my pals. I started thinking about my just life in general, just making different life choices and whatever. And genuinely, I believe it's because I wrote this down and I stuck to it, and I pulled through, and I did everything in this list. Like I already showed you on the thing, and it was literally all for this one part. take Alaska and Gelroy, fish up more corallium. I was looking for corallium and then chromite. I need smoky because of the way that Alaska and Gelroy, like their passives basically help each other, and you can farm up I think it's like the sunken treasures or whatever it is. However, if you go to the next page right after this Palworld page, this is when I started writing some lessons, right? Things for me to remember. Now, I talked about these in some of my other videos right here. Opposite of good is not evil, it's easy. I talked about this in, I think it's my second or third video. But it all started with this. It's right next to each other, right? These are just some quotes I have on the side that relate to some of these notes that I wrote, because I started writing on this page. For some reason, I didn't start here, I started here, and then these are just like little add-ons, you know? I got a Ben Franklin quote right there. Death and taxes. But I haven't covered a lot of these in the other videos. If you want me to, you know, let me know. But moving on. These are more things that this one right here, it's okay, be ashamed. I covered that in another video, but it all started with this page, right? This one is around this time that I was doing this, that I was writing this down, writing down goals, things I wanted to achieve, and it just went straight into this. See, and then this video topics. This is why I say that Palworld is also directly responsible for my YouTube channel. That one homie still a hater. I did the video on haters. These are just some other things, you know, that I might talk about later in a different video. This one right here, actually, if you go to the comment section of my first video, because this one says people around you will tell you what your special gift is. Somebody in my comments from my very first YouTube video told me that I'm a natural YouTuber. You know, that really inspired me. So thank you for, I believe it was Kathy who said that in the comments. But see, video 2. This was the current goals video, which is related to this right here. This is another thing that I talked about. This is in my second video about what goals that I am setting for myself. These are just personal goals going into 2027. You see, it says 26 to 27, let's change. So that was this video 2. And I write everything in this book. Now I started writing everything in this book. See, 5 things. I did a video on this. This is literally it. When I wanted to make that video, I just wrote the 5 things on this page, and I just, you know, read off this, and then I interpreted what the meaning is for the video, and how I, you know, see certain points. So as you can see, everything started from that page, and it just kept going. This right here is the script for this video, how Palworld helped me to follow my dreams in the weirdest way. Things like this. And the main point, sorry, these are some lights, I still have to put them up, but the main point is writing things down is important, and this ties into this, right? Goal list, which is up here. That's the goal list. Then putting it on paper makes you believe, dude. It's just like in school. You remember in school? I put school punishment writing meme here because in school they would make you, hold on, now you guys can see me again, but in school you all remember, maybe not all of you remember, depending on how old you are, but in school, when you used to do something bad, they would make you write, you know, I will not do this, I will not do that on a piece of paper, like a bunch of times. You gotta fill up the whole page. I don't know if anyone else remembers doing that, but I remember doing it. And immediately after that, you learn not to do that thing again, right? You knew not to do that thing to avoid the pain of, you know, having to write the thing on the paper. But that's where this last part comes in. I wrote down lessons learned through action are the easiest to learn from, and it's because you spent the time, you had to sit there and do the hard thing to, you know, get out of that situation. You had to sit there and write that on that paper 100 times so that you could stop writing that on the paper, and then it was done and you learned your lesson, right? You learned what not to do to avoid that again, which I didn't realize at the time was a pretty important life lesson. You know, you gotta do the hard things, and that writing things down is very important. It's almost like putting your thoughts down, and it becomes part of the world after that. You know, it becomes real because they exist in your head. Your thoughts exist up here, but when you put them on paper, suddenly they become more real, and it's so true. It's the reason why I'm even doing any of this right now, you know. But it all started, sorry, I'm gonna take this off. It all started back then, and I'm just realizing this now. I just thought of like the timeline, and I'm like, you know, that's a little suspicious that it all started around that time. So I genuinely believe it was Palworld, you know. I think it was Palworld like in the usual spot, but it was my willingness to put my goals down and just try my best to achieve. And then when I look back at them now, they're written down on a piece of paper. I look at it and I'm like, yeah, I did that. And to a lot of people, this might be like, yeah, whatever, bro. You did a thing in a video game. You wrote notes down. But everybody has their journey. Everybody figures things out at a different age. Everybody does things differently, figures things out differently. And for some of us, it doesn't happen in our 20s. I'm just gonna be straight up. Like, there's no way around it for me. But it's okay, because now I have goals. If you tying back to the beginning of this video, and you saw on the paper earlier, one of my goals is to work out and lose weight. When I started actually thinking about it and trying to better myself, I was at like 300, maybe like 360. I was almost 400 pounds, and I mean, I still look heavy, but I hopped on the scale today and I'm down to 335. So I already lost 30 pounds, dude. 30 pounds, Hey, and if I can do it, anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. If you're like me, if you're like me and you're like late 20s or early 30s, overweight gamer, bro, there's a way out. There's always a way out. And I challenge you today to write it down, bro. Post it up on the wall. You've seen how I had it right next to the mirror in the bathroom. I see it every morning. It makes it real. It makes it tangible. You can see it right in front of you. And that's one of the most important goals, and that's one of the most important things when you're chasing a goal. It's much easier to chase a goal when you're constantly seeing it, when it's constantly in your mind, when you're hungry for it, I guess. And writing it down is probably the most important thing, because it, like I said, it brings it into the world. It puts it into your conscious mind, because it's something tangible that you can see, instead of keeping it in your head where it'll stay contained. It takes it out of your head and into real life, which is what you want. You want to manifest your goals. So that's about it for the video. Honestly, I just had this crazy revelation and I wanted to test out the new I thought it is a tripod, but it's also like a selfie stick, which is what I've been using to record most of this video. But it's pretty cool. Sorry, I'm gonna put this at the beginning of the video. Sorry if the camera is shaking, because I am not very used to holding a selfie stick, and also I'm nervous. I'm nervous as hell, because this is the craziest video I'm about to record. Like, this is the craziest video idea I've ever had, to be honest. But yeah, anyway, if you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching, because damn, some realizations are kind of crazy. But if you guys want more updates, on the weight thing, especially because that's the main thing I'm working on right now, let me know. I can do updates or whatever, but it's just a lesson. It's an important lesson. I feel like I learned that writing things down and just putting your goals out into the world, making them real, something you can look at every day, it will definitely change your perspective. It can do crazy things, and that's what this channel is all about. Me doing crazy things, or realizing crazy things that will change my life, and then acting accordingly. So if you want if you want to stick around for the ride, please drop a subscribe, drop a comment if you had any crazy revelations like this, or if you're, I don't know, if you think I'm a huge nerd, you can just put that in the comments too, whatever, because I'm a huge nerd. It is what it is. But until the next one, I'll see you guys later, and have a good one.